Well, we are here after our action at the Pentagon for a debrief, and first we're just going to start with introductions with the people that are here for our conversation. Gordon?
Gordon Clark, longtime peace activist. I was actually a founder of the Iraq Pledge of Resistance, now the National Campaign for Nonviolent Resistance.
It's been great meeting you and talking to you about this stuff.
Great meeting you, Harry.
Yael?
Hi, I'm Yael. I'm a student at Wesleyan University, and I'm an organizer for our spring break.
Great.
Hi, I'm Adam. I go to her school also.
All right, and Gordon, we'll start with you. Do you want to just describe what we just witnessed?
Sure. It was a nonviolent resistance action, civil resistance action at the Pentagon. Members of the group, our group, had tried to get a meeting with Secretary Gates to talk about the illegal wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and Pakistan. They've been unable to do it, so they went to try and enforce their demand personally. And to get in, when they were told they could not get in, they sat down, blocked an entrance, and were summarily arrested by Pentagon police and taken away.
Great. And how did you think it went?
I thought it went well. It's always great, of course, to have even more people, and we were debriefing about some of the issues. It's always a learning process. As I was saying, Gandhi's autobiography wasn't called My Experiments with Truth for no reason. We're always learning this process, but it's always inspirational to watch other people who are willing to take these types of risks and have this type of commitment to make their protest manifest.
Great. And Yael, last night we were talking about personal empowerment versus group empowerment. Did you think that played a part necessarily in what we just saw? Or?
Yes, I mean, I definitely think that as a process, this group, they sent the letter to Gates, he didn't respond. They tried to get a meeting, they were arrested. I mean, this was a process of showing that their message is not going to be heard by this person who's supposed to be serving them. And I think that's empowering for each person to know that they're doing all that they can. And also as for the group to show that you're really working together and trying to stand up for what you believe in, and you're saying everything you can. I mean, we had an interesting experience because next to the Pentagon there's a free speech square. You can only stand in there and have free speech, and outside of it you can't. So we had I felt empowered learning a little bit more about some of this hypocrisy, and really I didn't agree with the cops at all. I mean, I think you should have free speech everywhere. That's one of the things our country's based on.
And the fact that the free speech zone was in the September 11th Memorial Garden.
Yeah.
A little bit ironic there.
Yes.
Gotta love the Patriot Act. And Adam, discussing things with a police officer. Do you want to describe that interaction?
Yeah, he came over, and he was, I think, really nice. He really wanted to figure out what we were doing. He didn't quite believe that it was peaceful, people sitting out there and blocking the exit, and he felt it was much more effective to be behind with banners and chants that people listen to that. But when they're blocked from going to work, they see this every day over and over again, these same small groups of protesters, and they're just like these freakos. But with the banners, they actually go up, maybe shake hands, talk about it, and he just wanted to figure out where we were coming from, really. We talked for a while.
And I remember he described one thing I thought was really interesting. He said that he thought the banners actually did have an impact.
Yes,
people
he did.
Stopped and looked at him.
Yeah.
So you think he had a point, like a good point?
I do believe that being behind there could be effective. I think there was this whole army of Red Beret, like junior ROTC people, that we just were shouting at them and like asking them to question what they saw, and I think that could have had an impact on maybe some of their minds. I also do think done maybe the right way, maybe with more people sitting in and blocking something to show the mass support, maybe that this is really a lot of people believe this.
Yep. And Gordon, you obviously have been doing this for some time. I mean, having equally, I thought it was interesting the police officer described his experience witnessing this from your side of things, seeing the effectiveness of sit-ins and other nonviolent direct action. What did you think of his point?
His point that it's more effective to stand outside and protest. Well, I certainly don't buy that. As I responded to him at the time, I think, there are a lot of particulars in terms of an action where it's happening, the experience of people there, the history there, and the reality is that almost any effective social change, large-scale social change movement, there has always been acts of nonviolent resistance, civil resistance, and civil disobedience that have galvanized people, that have driven those movements forward to success. Obviously, it's a little hard to say that when you're just witnessing 7 people doing an action here, but we also hope that that's part of a larger movement, an ongoing movement, as the cop seems to. So, like, I don't completely believe him that people are walking in. If they really get bothered that often about going to work in this place, I have a feeling that somewhere in the back of that mind, that's registering as something more than, damn these freaky people blocking me. It's like, maybe there is a problem about working here. But there are, of course, just much larger questions about how you construct the demand for particular action, how you follow through. Are there larger groups of people who are coming after you? And unfortunately, my observation is that in the larger peace movement, nonviolent resistance has sort of been marginalized as this sort of side thing that a few people can do if they want to, and it's not really seen as sort of the point of the spear, to use an unfortunate metaphor perhaps, of any movement that's trying to produce change. The large-scale movement doesn't use it, so it's up to small groups of people like us to keep this form of action alive, of social change action alive.
And I think bringing it back to the question, one thing I was talking about was the legacy of Martin Luther King and nonviolent direct action and the larger civil rights movement.
Right.
Do you think this plays into that as well?
Absolutely, and certainly if you're talking about just small groups of people. I mean, Rosa Parks was one person, who stood up on or refused to stand up on a bus and give her seat, and look what came of that. So you can't judge the ripples that we create where they will lead, and the number of people involved is not necessarily the only determining factor.
Yep. I also thought it was interesting that he didn't really have a response to you when you asked the hypothetical about a sit-in at AIG.
Yeah, it took him a moment to decide whether he was so pissed off about that he'd actually support people blocking the entrance of AIG, which of course was the intent of my question. So I think even someone like that who will argue like, oh, this isn't useful, you can usually find something in their own lives where they'll go, yeah, I could see doing it to those people.
Yep. Yeah. Adam, closing points?
I think that I really agree that you don't know where the ripples are going to lead, and every action, no matter how well you plan it out, you don't know what's going to happen. And one of the most surprising and inspirational things I found was that this police officer said, I've never spoken to protesters before, and now I'm really curious, and if anyone was impacted, I know he was. So I thought that was a really great unintended consequence of the action, and I felt really empowered by it.
All right.
I think he would be one of the first police officers out of a mass nonviolent peace movement like really blossomed in America. And there was, a lot of times people in power start, they turn away from their positions and they join the movement. I feel like he'd be one of the first police officers to join us.
All right.
Yep. And with that, we'll close out, and thank you very much, guys.